Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to Book Summary 5, the 5-minute summary channel. I'm Sammy, your host, and today we're stepping into A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry, a sweeping, heartbreaking novel set in India during one of its most turbulent eras, the mid-1970s, under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's state of emergency. It's a story about ordinary people caught in extraordinary political currents, a story of survival, suffering, and fragile hope. A novel that doesn't flinch from despair, yet somehow leaves us with the quiet strength of human resilience. Let's dive into this unforgettable story, so you'll feel like you have read it cover to cover. The novel centers on 4 strangers whose lives converge in a cramped apartment in an unnamed Indian city by the sea. Dina Dalal, a Parsi widow struggling to remain independent after the death of her husband, takes in 2 tailors, Ishvar and his nephew, Om, as well as a young student, Maneck, who's been sent by his parents from the mountains to study refrigeration and air conditioning in the city. The apartment is tiny, tensions simmer, and yet slowly, something like a family begins to form. Dina, proud and fiercely self-sufficient, is trying to keep her life afloat without having to return to her wealthy but domineering brother. She hires Ishvar and Om to help her run a small tailoring business, sewing dresses for a local exporter. The 2 tailors are from a lower caste, the Caste, and have already lived through unimaginable brutality. Ishvar had once defied the caste system by becoming a tailor, work traditionally done by higher castes, and suffered terrible consequences for it. They've come to the city seeking a better life, only to find themselves crushed under corruption, exploitation, and political violence. Maneck, meanwhile, comes from a sheltered but lonely background. His parents run a grocery store in the mountains and see success in sending him to study in the city. But Maneck is quickly overwhelmed by the urban chaos, the poverty, the cruelty, and the sense that everything stable in his life is slipping away. The emergency declared by the Indian government looms over everything. Civil liberties are suspended. Forced sterilizations, slum demolitions, and disappearances are common. The 4 protagonists find themselves caught in this tightening net. Dina's business begins to unravel. The tailors are harassed by police, extorted by local goons, and eventually rounded up during a beautification campaign that targets the homeless and the poor. They are sent to a forced labor camp, an episode of almost unbearable suffering. There, their hope, their strength, and their dignity are stripped away. And yet somehow Ishvar and Om survive, damaged but breathing. When they return to the city, it is not triumphantly, but with legs amputated, futures stolen, and lives reduced to begging. Dina, once stubbornly independent, is evicted from her apartment and forced to move back in with her brother, where she loses even the illusion of control over her life. Maneck, who briefly returns from abroad years later, finds the apartment abandoned, his friends broken or gone. He is overwhelmed by the futility of it all, how none of their efforts, none of their dreams, could withstand the grinding machinery of oppression and injustice. In a devastating moment, Maneck takes his own life, throwing himself in front of a train. And yet the story is not entirely one of hopelessness. There are moments of quiet grace. The bond that formed between these 4 strangers, even if it was temporary, was real. There was laughter, companionship, shared food, small kindnesses. The fine balance of the title refers not just to the social and political tightrope people walk in oppressive systems, but also to the delicate, flickering light of humanity that survives even in the darkest circumstances. Rohinton Mistry's prose is lyrical and precise. He draws characters with deep empathy and vivid complexity. He doesn't offer easy answers, and he doesn't soften the blow of history. But in telling this story, he reminds us of the power of connection, the families we make, the small mercies we offer, the dignity we fight to retain even when everything else is lost. A Fine Balance is a monumental novel, one that pierces the heart and doesn't let go. Thank you for listening to this summary on Book Summary 5. If it moved you, as it has moved so many readers, be sure to subscribe for more profound and powerful stories. And until next time, happy reading.